Hey everyone, welcome to Unit 6, Cities and Urban Land Use Patterns. So today we're going to dive into topic 6.1, the origin and influences of urbanization. So go ahead and grab a snack and we'll talk about how the cities we live in, like Miami, came to be and why they're shaped the way that they are. It's more than just skyscrapers and traffic. It's about geography, trade, power, and people. All right, so some of the things to cover in Unit 6. We're going to talk about the origins and the influences of a particular site and situation of urban settlements, and students explore cities across the world. We're going to examine spatial distribution, identify patterns of development. We're going to examine the hierarchy of urban settlements. We're going to talk about statistics like census data and how they're used to reveal the challenges of urban places. We're going to examine the patterns of change over time. And your role is to consider how city centers, the role that city centers play in global markets, culture, and politics. All right, so what's this unit about? We're going to study how cities are originated, how they function, and how they've changed, especially when it comes to site and situation. We'll look at how transportation, technology, and policies influence the cities we live in. So think of it as the origin story for every skyline you've ever seen, from downtown Miami to the global megacities in Tokyo and Laos. All right, so here's our big question today. What drives people into cities? What influences where and why cities grow? We're covering learning objective PSO-6A, and we're going to focus on the processes that initiate and drive urbanization and suburbanization. And this includes concepts like site and situation, so don't worry, we'll break it down in a second. All right, so let's start with site. This is an actual physical geography of a city's location. So think water access, fertile soil, natural harbors. So for example, Chicago sits on Lake Michigan and it has soil. That's not a coincidence. It's geography at work. Now, situation is about how the city relates to other places, like how Miami's location gives it ties to Latin America, the Caribbean, and the global economy. Being a gateway makes a big difference in our economic growth and urban function. So early American cities like Boston and New York boom because of ports. Ports equal money, trade, and connections. And don't forget the canals like the Erie Canal, which were basically the 1800s version of Uber Eats and Amazon Prime. Fast, efficient delivery routes made inland cities accessible. All right, so Chicago's location gave it a leg up, and it had water routes, rail access, and amazing soil from these old tall grass prairies. Basically, it was an urban jackpot, ideal for trade, industry, and once the Erie Canal opened up, it connected Chicago to the Atlantic Ocean, and that's like getting an upgrade from dial up to fiber internet. All right, so what did Chicago do with all the site potential? It became a hub for logging, grain, and meatpacking. By 1890, it exploded from 4,500 people to a million. That's like everyone in Miami-Dade County plus Broward showing up in 50 years. That's how site and situation transformed into a population growth and economic power. So the Erie Canal connected the Atlantic Ocean to the Great Lakes. It wasn't just like a waterway, it was a growth machine. It turned New York City into a trade giant and helped cities like Chicago flourish. So infrastructure equals power. All right, so let's rewind to 3500 BCE. This is the first urban revolution. Humans started farming, created food surpluses, and boom, cities were born. These early cities were in places like Mesopotamia and the Nile Valley. So later in the Roman era, cities popped up near ports for trade. Notice the trend: trade equals growth. All right, so fast forward to the 1800s, the second urban revolution. This is the industrial boom. People left farms for factories and cities got messy. Think overcrowding, pollution, and poor sanitation, but also business directs business districts emerged, and then the rich moved into the suburbs. This shift created an urban structure that we know today. All right, so urbanization is when people move from the rural cities to from rural areas to cities. Sorry, cities become hubs for culture, business, and government. The term metropolitan statistical area (MSA) area, sorry, metropolitan statistical area (MSA) is a key. It's a city that surrounding cities that work together socially, economically, and yes, Miami's MSA is a big one. All right, so now we're going to talk about PSO-6.A.2, and this is changes in transportation and communication, population growth, migration, economic development, and government policies that influence urbanization. Oh, before we do that, I'm going to go back real quick. All right, so Miami-Dade alone has 2.7 million people, but the whole MSA is about 6 million. That includes Broward and Palm Beach. So why do people cluster here? They have access to jobs, infrastructure, and the beach. Yes, of course, good weather doesn't hurt. All right, so what pulls people into cities? Transportation, communication, population growth, migration, economic opportunity, government decisions. It's never just one thing. All of these forces work together like gears on a machine. All right, so trains, highways, airports, these shape cities. When you can move people and products quickly, cities expand. Think about I-95 or the Bright Line connecting South Florida cities. Communication matters too. So fiber optics and 5G attracts companies and jobs. So infrastructure equals magnet. We're also going to talk about the Borchards model, and this shows how different transportation tech reshapes urban growth. So the sail wagon era equaled to port cities. So if you had a port, you had all those people coming in. Iron horse, so the railroads, all of the regional rail lines connected cities with resources and industries. Then you have the steel rail, and this was a national network. Rail lines connected the interior of the continent. And then you have auto and air. So suburbs and airport hubs began to grow. Cars allowed cities to spread out and airport hubs to emerge. So Miami is very much a product of the auto air era. Think of sprawl expressways and international flights. All right, so stage 2 of the DTM brought population booms, better hygiene, more food. People flooded into cities, and it's still happening in places like Nigeria or India today. Migration also plays a huge role. Folks move for jobs, family, and safety. They settle in cities because that's where the opportunity is. All right, so cities grow when economies grow. During the Industrial Revolution, cities like Manchester exploded. Today, cities like Shenzhen, a special economic zone in China, thrive due to tech and trade. Here in the US, think of Houston for energy or DC for government. These are special function cities. All right, so government policies hold the power to influence the growth and development of cities, both economically and socially. So forward thrust capitals can be created. Governments can also create special economic zones or industrial parks, which create jobs. And then governments can invest in new infrastructure or redevelopment. All right, so sometimes governments force urban growth. So in Brasília in Brazil was built from scratch to move people inland. Abuja placed Lagos to replace Lagos to unify Nigeria, and these forward thrust capitals are meant to solve urban problems like congestion. It's to spread out development. All right, so governments also redevelop cities through tax incentives or economic zones. Shenzhen exploded because the Chinese government turned it into a tax haven for companies. This creates jobs and transforms urban spaces. Cities are living, breathing economies, and policies can shape them really fast. All right, so that's topic 6.1. We just mapped out the foundation of urbanization from site and situation to industrial booms, population shifts, and even government mandated cities. So now you'll understand what makes cities grow and thrive. So next time you're stuck on the Palmetto or cruising on Biscayne, just remember there's a reason Miami looks the way it does. Geography is never random. All right, so make sure you complete your lesson reviews, your reflections, and your bell ringers. And I'll see you guys next class. If you have any questions, write them down in your margin, and we'll cover them next class.